Douglas Bickford. It is the 1st of December 2021. I'm teaching self-esteem out of this book right here. Okay, The Portable Therapist by Dr. Susanna McMahon. I have been since February 2021. You all can get this book in a link posted in all my videos in the description. It's very cheap. I paid $6 for this. Okay, this book will change your life. In it is a concept. I call it mirror therapy. She says to do this daily, and what it is say I love you in the mirror to yourself when you're in front of the mirror in the morning. Say I love my inner child. I'm going to nurture and take care of my inner child. Acknowledge I have an inner child. Say I'm worthy to be loved and worthy to love. Those three things to yourself in the mirror daily for the rest of your life will give you a thing called self-esteem. And it comes from a psychiatrist. Okay, it doesn't come from Douglas Bickford. Self-esteem is self-love, self-confidence, self-worth. It's how you feel about yourself inside. And the thing about self-esteem is you can't love without it. And this all comes out of the book. You can't love without it, and you can't be loved without it. And so when you get in a relationship, you will attract exactly what you are, okay? Which is somebody that doesn't love themselves. You have to have self-esteem before, which is self-love. You have to have self-esteem before you can have a healthy relationship with another person. And we're being taught just the opposite, that the perfect person will magically appear, and then you will automatically fall in love with each other and happily ever after. Nothing else will matter, but it doesn't work that way. That's not the way it works. Okay? And the other thing about self-esteem is you can't be content without it. You know what content is? That's a happy feeling. That you feel good about what you are, how you are, and where you are. And, so the only way to be content and to have a healthy relationship is to have self-esteem, self-love, self-confidence, self-worth. Okay? Absolute only way. Those three things in the mirror to yourself daily without fail will give you self-esteem on steroids. It happened to me. Okay, because I was sexually, emotionally, and physically abused as a child. I carried that my whole life all the way up until February 2021. When I started talking about it, when I started attaining self-esteem around January, February, because I started using the mirror concept, which I call mirror therapy, out of her book. Okay. And so I got out of a toxic relationship 13 months ago. Yeah. November 2nd, 2020. And I got out of one. I left one because it turned toxic it turned toxic after about 2 months. I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't know what was wrong with the relationship. All I knew is I put an ad on Craigslist in 2017, May of 2017. I found a woman immediately on a Craigslist ad. I married this woman. We got married after 3 weeks. Okay. And it turned toxic, but about 2 months into this marriage, I knew I made a huge mistake. But I didn't know what it was until I left and found this book buried in a box at my son's house, where I ended up I left everything I owned to get away from this woman because she was threatening to kill a third cat. She had already killed 2. Because people with no self-esteem, what they'll do is harm you, your animals, or your children in these toxic relationships. Okay. Ended up at my son's house, found this book, buried in a box, who's also been married 8 years to this alcoholic woman, which the one I left was an alcoholic, and abusive woman. And mine was abusive, and his is too. He's still with her. But anyway, I found this book, and I just threw it in my head. Took an old RV, took my 1987 Dodge van, 1987 Prowler RV pull behind, 1987 Dodge van, left everything I owned, took my 3 cats, a few clothes, and I hit the door. Okay. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I got woke up that day on November 2nd, 2020, that she was going to kill a 3rd cat. His name's Bullseye. He's alive and kicking today because I got woke up by, I call God the Great Spirit. That's who I believe woke me up that day to get me out of that. So I could be here teaching self-esteem on YouTube, attain self-esteem, because I lived without it my whole life. Because what we do when we're sexually, emotionally, or physically abused as children, we stuff it our whole life and we never talk about it. And attaining self-esteem allowed me to be able to talk about this stuff. I had never talked about what had happened to me as a child. And so stuffed pain you don't face, never leaves. In fact, it gets worse. So you stuff more and more on top of it. And there's billions of you on the planet in the same boat. You're in toxic relationships right now. But the mirror therapy, I just told you, will give you the strength to get out of these toxic relationships and get healthy minded. This book, get the book, folks. Very cheap. You can afford it. This book will change your messed up life if you do the concepts in it. But it's very simple to attain self-esteem. So you give you the strength to handle life and all the pain that goes along with life. This book will teach you how to do that. Okay? So anyway, and the other reason I'm doing it, because it happened to me, I have self-esteem on steroids now because of the 3 things in the mirror, and then reading this book. This is my 4th time going through the book. And I'm doing this because, number one, it got me out, gave me self-esteem, okay? And because I did the work it took, and it didn't take that long. It was very simple. Nobody's teaching self-esteem on the whole internet. You can't find anybody teaching it. I'm the only one. Nobody's telling you how to get it, which I told you how to get it. And nobody's telling you how simple it is. And it is very simple to attain self-esteem. But the thing about the mirror therapy, okay, it's very easy for you to look at yourself in the mirror and say bad things because that's what you believe about yourself. And that's why when I tell you to do that, the first thing you're going to want to do is call me names because I told you to do that to yourself. Because you don't love yourself, you don't believe it about yourself to say good things about yourself, okay? And it's very easy for your defense mechanism to kick in and call me names and then turn me off as soon as I tell you that, to say that to yourself in the mirror, because it's a defense mechanism that you're using and you don't even know you're using it. It's unconscious. So you want to call me names because I tell you to say something good to yourself. Now think about that, okay? If you make it this long in this video, think about that thought that goes through your head that want to say I'm nuts for telling you that. Okay. Now I can very confidently say I love Douglas Bickford. I love my inner child. I'm worthy to be loved and worthy to love. Less than 10 seconds. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror because the very first time I did it, and I did it as soon as I read it out of this book, I go, I can't do that, just like you. That's crazy. That's what I thought. And then you have to force yourself to do it the very first time. Okay? Now, I've been through the change. I can be your mentor when your change starts happening for you. Okay. And I'm going through this book a chapter at a time. And the next chapter is chapter 38. This will talk about the inner child. Who is this inner child? Emotionally, we never grow up. Our feelings do not mature. Anger or sadness in a 2-year-old are the same emotions in an adult. Did you hear what I just said? Emotionally, we never grow up. Our feelings do not mature. Anger or sadness in a 2-year-old are the same emotions in an adult. The way in which we express our feelings can be immature or mature manifestations of the emotions, but the feelings themselves are timeless. One way to think of the inner child is as the unappointed guardian of our emotional warehouse. He or she rules over our emotions and our needs until the needs are met and the emotions are acknowledged. Only when the inner child is parented, taken care of, will he or she allow the adult side of ourselves to guard the warehouse. Now, that's why I told you to say to yourself in the mirror, I acknowledge I have an inner child. I'm going to take care and nurture my inner child. And I love my inner child. Okay? What is stored in this warehouse, which is the domain of the inner child? Question mark. All the pain, all the rejections, the loneliness, the abandonment, the fears and insecurities of our lives. Every time we have been hurt, every rejection, every painful message that we have ever received is stored away in the inner child. How do we know that the inner child is there? Question mark. Every time that we overreact to a stimulus, helpless. Every time that we overreact to a stimulus, the inner child is acting out. Whenever we feel out of control and helpless, our inner child has taken over. Whenever our needs are controlling our behaviors, the inner child is demanding to be taken care of. Each time that we feel helpless or hopeless or completely overwhelmed, and the feelings do not match the reality of the situation, our inner child is yelling for attention. Does everyone have an inner child? Yes. All of us began by perceiving the world through the child's eyes. And all of us have some memories of those perceptions. The child within us remembers the helplessness of feeling out of control. This child has countless experiences of unfairness, and he or she remembers all of them. This child personally knows how difficult it is to make sense of a world which is incomprehensible. The inner child has learned what works in the short term, and what works is to yell and scream and demand attention, or to become passive, withdrawn, helpless, and wait for help. It does not arrive. If help does not arrive, then hopelessness sets in. Whether the child overtly acts out or passively withdraws, the inner child knows that he or she does not have control over what will happen. A healthy inner child knows how to trust that his or her needs will be met, and this child learns how to delay gratification. Most of us, unfortunately, do not have healthy inner children, and do you know why? Because nobody's teaching it. That's why I'm doing it here. Most of us are aware that we have several roles or facets of ourselves, the adult side, the child side, the parent side, the professional side, and so on. As adults, we tend to like the grown-up side of ourselves and to deny or ignore the childish side, especially when we're embarrassed by the behaviors exhibited by the child. Most of us are trained to feel that we should be grown up, and we tend to suppress our child. That word trained, she uses the word training and taught throughout this book. Comes from the social media. She wrote this book in the 1980s, okay? Before social media ever was there. The television back then and the radios, now it's the social media and the television, so it's a lot worse than it was. So our training has, our whole lives we've been trained how to be, okay? We certainly suppress the negative side of the child, the acting out side, but we also suppress the positive side, the spontaneous, excited, playful side. Our inner child will only be suppressed temporarily. The child will come out when we're least expecting it, and he or she will often behave in a shocking way. It is as if this child is trying to get back at us for not giving the attention she or he needs. Most of us, she says, most of us are in a power struggle with our inner child. We do not realize what we do not realize is that the inner child has control of our emotions, so you don't know, and that's why I'm telling you this right now. Or has control over our emotions while we try to control our logical thoughts. And we know, perhaps too painfully, that emotions usually rule over logic. The inner child is powerful only when not recognized and when pain is not acknowledged. This is the secret of the inner child. There it is for you, folks. Another very important chapter for you out of the Portable Therapist. The next chapter will be, what can I do for my inner child? Okay. And that'll be tomorrow's video. So, I can be mentored, like I said. My phone number is 458-232-5238. Call me anytime, day or night. I don't want nothing from you. I can help you when the change starts. Remember to look at yourself in the mirror, say, I love my inner child. I love you. I'm worthy to be loved. I'm worthy to love. Do those things every day. And remember, you came into this world good and you will leave good. Y'all have a great day out there. Douglas Bickford. Today's date's the 2nd of December 2021. 3:40 a.m. here in Klamath Falls, Oregon, which is my hometown. I'm teaching self-esteem out of this book right here. Written by a doctor of psychology. Her name's Susanna McMahon. She got a PhD, okay? There it is in black and white. She is the real deal. She's a real doctor, okay? Unlike all these fake doctors on YouTube. Dr. Romani is one of them. That's her picture there. All my picture, all her pictures in all my videos. Anyway, we can all attain self-esteem, and it comes out of this book, that book right there. And I'll tell you how to do it. But she's a psychiatrist. I think she's around my age, which is 65, going on 66 actually. She was a counselor, therapist, a real marriage counselor when she was practicing her profession. for many years, overseas and everywhere else. Okay. That's what the book says about her. Okay. Anyway, one of the concepts in this book is, I call it mirror therapy. You look at yourself in the mirror directly in your eyes, just like I'm doing right now, and you say, I love you. Say, I acknowledge I have an inner child. I love you, my inner child. I'm going to take care and nurture you to your inner child. And I'm worthy to be loved and worthy to love. Take you 10 seconds, okay, to say those three things to yourself in the mirror daily for the rest of your life. It will give you a thing called self-esteem. It's also called self-confidence, self-worth, self-love, okay? And here's the thing about self-esteem, self-love, self-confidence, self-worth. Can't love without it, and you can't be loved without it. And you also cannot be content without it. So, just as far as a relationship, a romantic relationship, uh, you'll attract somebody just like you that doesn't love themselves, and then they can't and won't love you because they can't love themselves, because they don't love themselves. That's the way it works, and it all comes out of this book right here, okay? Just like the mirror concept that I call mirror therapy. And I know it works because I did it. I had no self-esteem, and because I was sexually, emotionally, physically abused as a child by my parents, okay? And I've been in 4 marriages because of no self-esteem. I carried it my whole life. I didn't have any self-esteem up until around January, February 2021. I left a toxic relationship, my 4th marriage, which was a 4th toxic relationship. I left it November 2nd, 2020, 13 months ago, okay? And I got myself in that in May of 2017 because I put an ad on Craigslist looking for a woman to love me, okay? Because I had no self-esteem. If I'd had self-esteem, I would have been perfectly content with a house bought and paid for in cash in a beautiful park manufactured home community in Spokane, Washington. I bought this house in 2013, paid for it cash. Had military retirement coming in. I had a thriving hot dog business in front of the courthouse in Spokane, Washington for 9 years. I had $35,000 in silver in a safe in my house. I had everything. I had 4 vehicles. But what I didn't have was self-esteem. Okay? So I wasn't content because you can't be content without self-esteem. Okay? And there's billions of you right now in toxic relationships because you had no self-esteem. There's billions of you that are trying to use, here's what you use to try to be content when you don't have self-esteem: drugs, alcohol, sex, TV, religion. You'll use another person, material possessions, or money. 8 things. You will use all those things to try to be content. And they will never make you content, any of that stuff. That's why people have been divorced more than once, or been married more than once and divorced more than once, or you've have been relationship jumping your whole life, or you're completely alone because you can't love anybody. You got burned in a relationship, so then you decide, I'm never going to be with anybody again. Okay. Because you got burned so many times. And it's not even your fault that you don't have self-esteem, because nobody's teaching it. Nobody's teaching self-esteem. Nobody's telling you how to get it. And nobody's telling you how simple it is, except for Douglas Bickford out here. And that's the first reason I'm teaching self-esteem on YouTube, is because it saved my life. The mirror concept that I got out of this book, written by a psychiatrist, saved my life, and the rest of the concepts in this book saved my life. Okay. I have self-esteem now, full of it now, which I didn't have my whole life, 65 years. So I'm going into my 66th birthday, December 25th. Just call me Lord, okay? Just kidding. That's my 66th birthday. But anyway, so that's why Douglas Bickford is out here teaching self-esteem, because nobody's doing it. It's not even your fault you don't even have it. It's not even your fault that you've been married more than once and been relationship jumping, and you use the 8 things to try to be content because you didn't know you don't know you don't have self-esteem. I'm talking to billions of you out there on the planet. I didn't know I didn't have self-esteem. My whole life I didn't know I didn't have it. Nobody ever taught me until I got this book. And now I'm teaching it a chapter at a time. This is chapter 39. Yesterday's, the one yesterday was, who is the inner child? And today is, what can I do for this inner child? Because we all have an inner child. That's why you have to say that to yourself in the mirror daily. I love my inner child. I'm going to nurture and take care of my inner child. And I acknowledge I have one, because we all have one, and it's living inside you. And the thing about mirror therapy is, that's what I call it, you can't lie to yourself in the mirror. So here's what you do. And I can say, like, probably 100% of the people that I'm talking to here. When you get up in the morning, you're shaving or putting your makeup on, if you're a woman or whatever. You always criticize yourself when you're in front of the mirror. You talk bad about yourself, right? You can't say anything good about yourself, because you know why that is? Because you don't have any self-esteem. Because you can't say good things to yourself, okay? Because you don't have any self-esteem. And that's why you want to call me nuts when I tell you that. But it's very easy for you to say bad things about yourself. And self-esteem is self-love. If you had self-esteem, self-love, you would never, ever say bad things about yourself. Just like you wouldn't say to somebody you love, unless you're mad at them, you wouldn't call them names, would you? You wouldn't say to them bad things. I mean, especially when the relationship is brand new, right? You would never say that to somebody that you love. Why would you say it to yourself? Okay, you got to think about that. And you are exactly what you say you are, okay? And that's why you want to, and it's a defense mechanism for you to want to turn me off and call me names because I told you to say I love you in the mirror. And you don't even realize that that's a defense mechanism, to call me names, okay? Anyway, so here's the next chapter. What can I do for my inner child? And I can be your mentor. I've been through the change. 458-232-5238. Because you'll need somebody to help you along the way. I have confidence that you're going to say those 3 things in the mirror to yourself daily without fail. That's your assignment, folks. Chapter 39. What can I do for my inner child? Begin by recognizing your inner child. Then acknowledge that your child is in pain. Even if you do not understand all the pain, remember what it feels like to be a child in pain. Allow your inner child to be angry with you. Know that you are more than your inner child and that you are the only one who can take care of your child. How do you recognize your inner child? Question mark. It helps to go through old photo albums, if available, and to find a picture of yourself before you are 5 years old. Take the picture out and put it somewhere where you will look at it often. If you can, carry it around with you and look at it several times each day. Become familiar with the way your inner child looks. It's more difficult to deny or ignore someone that we see every day. Become familiar with the way your inner child looks. Oh, I just read that. Try to remember what life was really like for this child and how the child felt during its childhood. Go back into your past with your child's eyes. Remember, you are not your child, and you'll not get stuck in your past as your inner child is. You must know what you are dealing with before you can help your child. Next time that you overreact to something or feel helpless or out of control, think of your inner child as trying to communicate with you. Your child can only get your attention by using strong emotions. Do not be angry at yourself, your inner child, when you experience these strong emotions. Your anger only causes the inner child more pain, and pain is what the inner child is yelling about. Now, this stuff is powerful. This happened to me. I didn't even know any of this. And neither do you out there. And it's all real. We all have an inner child. That's what the last chapter talked about. Acknowledge that your inner child is in pain, even if you do not understand all of it. Your inner child is angry, sad, and afraid, all at the same time, and many of these feelings are directed at you. The child is angry and sad that you, the only person who can help, are ignoring him or her. But I'll say it again. If you don't know you have an inner child, then it's not even your fault that you're ignoring your own inner child that lives inside you. Now you're hearing it for the first time from Douglas Bickford. You can do something about it. Your inner child is afraid that you'll never help, that you will never rescue and love and parent in the way that he or she needs. Remember that your inner child is only a little child without the skills and resources that you have, and that this small child is carrying far too much pain and confusion for any child to deal with. Separate yourself from your inner child. You are the adult, the parent, the wise one, and you have the necessary skills to parent the child. Do not be afraid of your child. Remember that your inner child is only powerful when you deny and ignore this child. All that is wanted is what every child wants, to be loved and protected and safe. You and you alone can give your child what is needed. This may be a good time for you to ask for help. Many therapists are familiar with the concept of the inner child and can help you parent your child. And there's very few therapists talking about it. I was in therapy 6 times and not any of them mentioned the inner child, self-esteem, none of it. Okay. So if you're in therapy and your therapist isn't teaching you self-esteem, find one who will, or better yet, get the book. Okay, it's in a link in every video I put up. There are several excellent books on this topic which can help you parent this child. She just told you how to do it, folks. It's very simple. Just talk to your inner child like you would talk to a 2-year-old. I mean, literally say it. I love you, and I'm going to nurture and take care of you from now. I'm not going to ignore you anymore. Really, that's all it is. You can also learn by observing. If you're a reasonably competent parent yourself, no parent is perfect. Pay attention to what you do with your own children. If you're not a parent, observe someone else who is. What they do when their child is hurt. Need assurance, acts out. What do they say to calm the child? How do they communicate to love their child? Begin to talk to your child. Say things like, I mean, literally say this to your inner child. I'm here. I hear you. I know you're upset. I want to help. You don't have to worry. I'll take care of you. I'm not angry with you. I understand. Everything will be all right. I do this. I'm always talking to my inner child now. And anyway, everything will be all right. You are good. I love you. Do not expect the child to trust you immediately. He or she has been waiting a long time for you, and you may need to test you before trusting you. This testing may result in an increase in the behaviors that you do not like. You may find yourself feeling out of control and overreacting more frequently than before. Or you may think that your inner child is not there because he or she seems so passive and withdrawn. Stay with gentle parenting behaviors. Your inner child is paying attention. Prepare yourself to become the ideal parent, the parent that your inner child never had but always wanted. This stuff is really important, folks, and it's all real. This lady knows what she's talking about. It works because it changed me. I'm not the same person I was 13 months ago when I walked out on a toxic relationship. Prepare yourself to become the ideal parent, the parent that your inner child never had but always wanted. No matter how wonderful your actual parents may have been, no matter how much attention they gave you and how much they loved they showered on you, it could never be enough for your inner child. You have one big advantage over your actual parents because your inner child is part of you. You know exactly what your child needs when it needs it, and you will be able to fulfill all of its needs. You are the ideal parent for your child, and your inner child is the only one which you can be ideal. There is no such thing as perfect, but this relationship between you and your inner child is the closest to a perfect relationship that you will ever have. It is not enough to recognize and accept your inner child. In order for your inner child to heal, he or she must be loved. And since you are the only person that matters to the inner child, you must love him or her. In order to learn to love this child, this inner child has created problems for you that has acted out and embarrassed you so many times. And it has left you feeling helpless and weak and immature. And in order to learn to love this little monster inside of you, you must stop being angry. Stop criticizing, blaming, and punishing this child. Accept your inner child. Pay attention to him or her when the child needs your attention. You cannot do this on your time. You must attend to the child on his or her time. Understand that your child is angry with you, but this anger will go away. Recognize that this is not your fault and that your inner child is hurt. You did not cause all the pain, and you could not alleviate the pain until now. Do not be hard on yourself, or the child will think that you're being hard on him or her. Know that children always internalize the pain around them. They think it is their fault and that they are responsible. They try to be good so that the situation will improve. And when it does not improve, they blame themselves. The inner child will think that it is his or her fault if you become a frustrated parent or you give up. Good parenting does not mean giving in to the child. When your inner child is acting out, you can help control him or her by structure and by loving discipline. You can teach your inner child to learn to delay gratification as long as the child knows that gratification will occur. If you become aware of your inner child demanding attention and you're not in a situation to stop everything and attend this child, you can say to your inner child, I hear you. I know you're upset. We will deal with this soon. Let me do what I must do right now, and then I'll attend to you. This is not denying the inner child because you're aware of the message he or she is sending. This is helping your inner child to know that you are in control and that you will take care of him or her as soon as possible. It is critical to keep your promise and to tend to the child, or he or she will not trust you next time. Be a loving and firm parent. The inner child needs structure and control. Just like a little 2-year-old. I mean, this is all real. The simplest way to love your inner child is to do all the things you have learned in order to love yourself, which saying the 3 things in the mirror to yourself. You've learned that will teach you how to love yourself. You will love yourself if you keep doing it. In other words, follow the behaviors for developing self-esteem for yourself and your inner child as well as yourself. You can learn to love yourself and your inner child at the same time. Loving your inner child allows you to love yourself, okay? And this is really important. That's why you have to say, I love my inner child, as long just like the same thing. I love you in the mirror. You have to say, I love my inner child. If you cannot choose or not to love your inner child, you will not be able to have self-esteem. Okay. That is like the most important sentence out of this chapter. That's why I believe billions on the planet run around with no self-esteem, because they don't know what an inner child is. Okay? Because you can't have self-esteem, can't love yourself unless you acknowledge and nurture and say I love you to your inner child. If you cannot choose, I'll read it again. If you cannot choose or choose not to love your inner child, and it's a choice, you will not be able to have self-esteem. The unloved inner child will still remain the guardian of your emotional warehouse, and you will be at a war with yourself. When you choose to love your inner child, what will happen? Several things, all of them wonderful. Your inner child will begin to feel safe and protected and will stop being angry and needy. The inner child will stop being your emotional guardian and will let you be in charge of the warehouse. You will no longer have unexpected outbursts from your child, and you will truly be in control of your behaviors. Your inner child will let go and allow you to function as an adult. Your inner child will become what it really is, just a small child inside of you. And you will become a more powerful and loving adult. Your inner child will know that when he or she needs attention, he or she does not have to act out, only to ask. And you'll attend to him or her. Small children really need very little to be happy. And best of all, your loved and happy inner child will allow you to be loved and happy, and at times, adult, spontaneous and playful, childish adult. It is very difficult for an adult to function at their best when they're carrying around a screaming 2-year-old around with them. But think how much joy and love you have for the same 2-year-old when he or she is content and smiling smiling lovingly up at you. Your inner child deserves to be loved as you do. Learn self-love for both of you. The only thing you will lose is the pain of your past. Wow. Another very important chapter out of the Portable Therapist. You can all attain self-esteem by saying those 3 things to yourself in the mirror daily, without fail. Getting this book in a link in the description of every video I put up. It's between $5 and $15. You can all get it, and I can be your mentor. One more time, my phone number, 458-232-5238. And remember, you came into this world good. You're going to leave good, and you're beautiful people. All good things are coming to you because I have confidence that you're going to say that to yourself in the mirror daily, without fail. Y'all have a great day out there. I'll have another chapter for you tomorrow, which will be, how can I stop the pain? Over and out.